Everybody has a story, but not all stories have been told. This is Benson the Storyteller, and these are some of my untold stories. Hello guys, welcome once more to my YouTube channel. My name is Benson the Storyteller, and these are my untold stories. On my previous video, I was telling you guys about how I started school in Kenya after having been in Australia with my family for 4 years. So I told you guys that when I came back, my parents looked for a school for me, and I started going to school at a school called APTC Primary School, which is now known as Utawala Academy. It's somewhere in Embakasi. So this is a continuation of that story. So when I moved to APTC Primary School, by that time I remember the school was still a day school. It hadn't yet turned into a boarding school. But then they'd already built the facilities. They'd already built the dining halls. They'd already built the dormitories, both the male and female, because it was a mixed primary school. So they'd already gotten all the infrastructure ready for the school being turned into a boarding school. But by the time I got there, it was still a primary school. Now, Utawala Academy was a relatively new school. Even by the time I got there, it hadn't been around for so long. You could tell that the school was new. And most of the students were also new. I joined Utawala Academy in Standard 3, and by that time I don't think the school went all the way to Standard 8. I don't think so. Maybe it went up to class 6, maybe class 7, but it hadn't gotten all the way to class 8. So practically everyone was new. But most of the students that I found there at Utawala Academy already were kids who came from the administration camp. So they were either children of the administration policemen, or related to kind of the workers who worked there at the college, or kids that were related to the people who are at the administration camp. Because originally the school was set up to meet the needs of the children of the administration policemen, because there was no primary school that was close enough to the training camp. So when the camp was built, they set aside, I think, the area where the school was for both a primary school and a secondary school. By the time I was there, the secondary school had not yet been born. But when I was looking at Google, had not yet been built. But when I was looking at the Google Maps, I saw that now there's a Utawala Secondary School, which has now been built, but it wasn't previously there. I remember by the time we were in Utawala Primary School, there was a section where I see the Utawala Secondary is. There was a section that there was some foundation work that was being done. So even in those days, I think they'd already planned that there was going to be a secondary school there. What I remember when I was there was that there was a church that was being built just next to the school. That's the thing, that the structure that was being built by the time I was in the school. But right now there's so many structures, I don't know what half of them are for, but I remember the infrastructure for the boarding school was already done, but everyone was a day scholar. Now, after a while, we used to be picked up we used to stay at Ngumo, Highview Estate. And we used to commute all the way to Embakasi with bus number 33. So that's what we used to do for a while. But then my mother, the school kind of talked to the administration police, because there was a police lorry that would leave Nairobi CBD every morning, going around picking up all the administration officers who guarded at night within Nairobi city, and they would take them back to the administration camp. So since we were living in Ngumo, they would pass by through our estate and pick up me and my mom, who was a teacher at Utawala Academy at that time. So the lorry would come every morning, park, hoot at our gate, we'd go in, they'd drop us at the school, and yeah, that was only in the morning. In the evenings, we'd go back, take bus number 33 all the way to Laini Saba bus stop there next to Kibera, and we'd just go into Ngumo, we'd go home. Now, that went on for a while until one day I remember my dad just told me, just in a discussion that we'd like you to go to boarding school. And at that time, I'd never been in boarding school before. All right. Remember, I've always been growing. I've always been with my family, my parents, my grandmother, my auntie, and I used to go to school and come back. I'd never been in boarding school. I didn't know what it was. So I remember when my dad was telling me about, oh, you're going to start boarding school. I was just happy, like excited, but I'm like, what's boarding school? I wonder what it is, but I didn't know what it was. So I remember we went shopping. I was bought for new uniform. My dad was like, and my mom like buying for me stuff. They'd been given a list of things to buy from the school for people who are just joining the boarding school. So we went shopping. I'm being bought for duvet. I'm being bought for a mosquito net. I'm being bought for a metallic box. In boarding schools, you only have this. You're bought for this metallic box. You're not. You don't go to boarding schools with these suitcases. Like the travel suitcases, the plastic synthetic ones, and the ones made of canvas and stuff. No, in school they needed boxes like tin trunks. So my dad bought a tin trunk, and I'm seeing they're going through a list. They're buying bar soap, they're buying soap, they're buying Vaseline, they're buying tissue paper. They're buying things in a list. And I'm like, okay, I'm picking up sweets. They're putting them back. They're saying, no, these are not in the list. So the shopping was done. It was done like maybe the weekend before. The Monday the weekend before the reporting day. So we bought all this stuff, went back home. My mom told me, now pack your stuff the way you like it. I'm busy, I'm packing things. But in the back of my mind, I'm wondering, where are we traveling to? But I'm seeing I'm the only one who's packing my stuff. And no one else is packing. So I didn't really understand what was going on, but anyway. So, the day when we are supposed to report for the first boarding day, instead of now going to school as usual with the administration police lorry, my dad drove us to school. So I had my tin trunk in the back of the car. And yeah, with my mom. And by this time now, when we were living in Ngumo, my dad had bought a car. It was a blue Toyota Corolla, and it wasn't among the cars that he owned in Australia. The ones in Australia, I think maybe he sold them, and because there was a yellow Volkswagen that my mother had, a short car, and my dad had a goldish Mercedes Benz. So I didn't see those cars again, but when we came to Kenya, he bought a Toyota Corolla. So yeah, so he drove us to school. And then when we got there, I noticed there were so many kids. There was a line of kids with boxes. Everyone had. The only thing that we didn't have was mattresses, because mattresses were already in the dorms. Like, the mattresses had been bought by the school, so the mattresses were there. It's just these other things that we had to come with. So when we went in, I'm seeing my classmates. Everyone has a box. The teachers are going through the list. You open your box. They ask, where's your soap? Where's your Omo? Omo is a detergent that you used to wash your clothes. Where is this? And then they tick. And then my parents helped me carry my box to the dormitory. Now, there were 2 dormitories for the boys. One was called Lenana and one was called Kimathi. So when I joined boarding, I went to Lenana. There are 2 floors. There's Upper Lenana, Lower Lenana, Upper Kimathi, Lower Kimathi. So I was in Lower Kimathi, Lower Lenana, and you enter the door, there are 3 cubicles. On your right, the first cube, the second, and the third one. So I was in the second cube. And then on your left, we had the staircase going to the top floor. And we also had the bathrooms and the toilets. That's on the left. And straight ahead was one of the teachers' rooms. So each dormitory, each floor had a room, where a teacher was assigned. Maybe it's the teacher on duty, but sometimes some of the teachers just lived in the school, so they were given rooms in the school. So the first night was more or less like it was more or less like how as kids you can go for a sleepover, to your friend's place. That's how it was. No one slept. I mean, people are just playing the whole night. We are running up and down. We're all excited. We are all in the same place. I still didn't know what boarding school was, but it was almost like we'd just gone for, in my mind, I thought we'd just gone for an outing, like a camp. And then the next day, maybe after 2 days, we'd go back home. But no, I'd started my boarding life just like that. I didn't know what it was. So basically everyone, we just played around the whole night. We slept late, and then in the morning we hear the bell ring, and then the teacher came and told us, okay, now every morning when you wake up, the showers are here. We were told to take our showers, and then from there we are told after this amount of time you'll hear another bell over there at the dining hall. Then we'll go to the dining hall and get our meals. Now, what I'd grant that school is that the quality of not just education, the food, the facilities, everything was on point. Because I remember in that school, every morning we were given tea, milk tea. We were given 2 slices of buttered bread. We also were given eggs in the morning. At around 10, there'd be another bell. We'd go to the dormitories to take a cup of tea again, but now that's plain tea. And then lunchtime, we were sometimes given rice and meat, rice and beans, ugali and meat, ugali and beans also, but I really didn't understand why ugali and beans. It looked odd, but anyway, yeah. We were also given ugali and beans. We were given githeri. Githeri is just maize and beans and some potatoes, Irish potatoes, boiled potatoes inside there. We also were given mokimo. Yeah, sometimes it was mokimo and meat. And then again at 4 p.m. there was also tea, evening tea. So the school diet was very nice, and I really couldn't complain much about that, Because basically what ended up happening in that school, despite the fact that it was a school that was started specifically for the children of the administration policemen, somehow the elite, the rich people took over that school. And it turned into a school of the children of who is who in Kenya, We had ministers' kids there. We had the kids of heads of parastatals, heads of the universities. We had children of very rich businessmen. We had ambassadors' kids. I mean, we had so many rich and prominent people's kids in our school that it kind of became like some kind of school for the very rich. So yeah, but what really stood out in that school was the level of discipline. I think maybe it had to do with the fact that it was inside an administration police training camp, but the level of discipline in that school was on another level. I'm telling you, most of it was, you did anything wrong, it was corporal punishment. And it was proper caning. That school, they never used to, especially there was a teacher, what was his name? There was a Mr. Mwangi. And then we had another teacher called Mr. Njeru. Now, those two particular teachers they had this motto that, you'll explain later. Like if something happens and then you by bad luck, you fall into their hands, for whatever reason, all Mr. Mwangi would say is, lie down. No, sir, but it was no, lie down. And when you're being told to lie down, he's hitting you on the back with the green mamba or the black mamba. The green mamba is just a flexible water hose pipe that's been cut, like maybe a meter and a half. So he'd be like, lie down, lie down, lie down, lie down. Before you've even explained, you've been caned. Then after you've been caned, now he tells you, all right, now say what you wanted to say, And sometimes I was like, now, why bother? You've already caned me, not obviously I don't tell him that, but I'm like, why do you even bother? So, whenever for whatever reasons, you find yourself in front of Mr. Mwangi or Mr. Njeru, just lie down or take the canes, whether they cane on the palm or on your bums, And yeah, but it wasn't really looking at it, it wasn't really fair, but at the same time, it brought this fear, it instilled this fear, and you had this type of forced discipline that you don't even think of doing anything wrong, Because I remember on the occasions that we went for school outings to other schools, or on the rare event that other schools came to our school, because it wasn't very common. The only school that used to come to our school was a school called Star of the Sea. They were from Mombasa. And this school only came because it was usually for the drama festivals. And they used to get to the finals or the provincials. And for some reason, they always used to come and spend at our school. And this was usually towards the closing, towards the end of the year, the closing day. And by that time, whenever that school used to come, we just knew it was fun, because there was also always the band. There was a disco band from the school that used to be brought to our dining hall, for like the last weekend. Then we are closing school. So they used to come and play music, and we used to dance, and Star of the Sea girls used to be there also. And yeah, that's the only time I'd say that a school used to visit us. But most of the time, it was us who went to other schools. If it's let's say, because I used to go a lot to represent the school they used to call it public speaking. And I actually have a lot of awards in that school. Best English speaker, best self-written narration, a lot of stuff like that. I got a lot of awards in the school. So mostly when we used to go to those things, maybe we used to go for sports, our school, maybe for camp, the scouts, whenever we used to go to another school, everybody would just wonder. They'd be looking at us like, these kids are so disciplined. We'd all be walking in a line, all talking in hushed tones, all seated neatly, very, very disciplined. Because I'm telling you, the type of discipline we were given in that was military discipline, my people. It was our headmaster, Mr. Maxwell Serere, was a disciplinarian by nature. He was you just look at him, no jokes with this headmaster. And then our deputy head mistress, what was her name again? She was also a no-nonsense woman. Forgotten her name. She was tall and huge, and she always walked with a bunch of keys, And anytime she saw you joking around, she'd call you and just knock you on the head with a bunch of keys. I've forgotten her name. Yeah. So we had the headmaster, a very, very, very serious man. Was very strict on discipline. In that school, no pocketing. If you were found without your shirt tucked in, that was a case. If you hadn't combed your hair, and I had a lot of problem with that because I don't know why. My hair, I used to brush it and it never used to be, I used to have a lot of problem. He would also, Benson, stand up. And then I knew, you have it, come here. And so one of my teachers, I was being caned like all the time, just because of my hair mostly, nothing else. Because I'm telling you, that school, there are so many reasons why you could be disciplined. But me, mostly it was about my hair, until one of my class teachers, she was very nice. She said, no, Benson, I think you should just cut your hair. And she took me to the administration camp and had them shave me, And I mean, that's how I used to be caned like because we had the parade. Parade was it every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, I think. Yeah, we had parade, And the headmaster, it was kind of like, how in the army they check the guard, they walk through the row of policemen, yeah. So whenever there was an assembly, the headmaster will just walk around a bit, looking at everyone. He finds your shoes are not polished. He finds your shoes are not laced. He finds your tie. We had a tie. If your tie was a little to the left, a little too big, a little too small. Guys, that's the school where we learned discipline. And it's a school that I'm not sure how it is now, but if you have a troublesome kid, or just a kid that you want to scare the crap out of, or you just want to teach them discipline, take them to that school. Because even our music, the people who are teaching us music for music club, for the drama festivals, the scout leader, all those people were administration policemen, and they were armed. They used to come to the school armed, Our bus driver, everyone, because it was a administration police training camp school. So the level of discipline was on a high level. The headmaster, the deputy headmistress, Mr. Mwangi, Mr. Njeru, and then there was also that's a plane. Yeah, there was Mr. Njoroge, but Mr. Njoroge was one of the more, in every school you have to find this popular teacher. The teacher who's like very social and friendly with the students, smiling a lot. Now that in that school it was a Mr. Njoroge. Mr. Njoroge wasn't really a disciplinarian, and people really loved him. He was a very nice teacher, kind of laid back. And we had a Mr. Otieno. Now, Mr. Otieno, that was a giant of a teacher. That guy was like almost 6 something, almost 7 foot. That guy was tall. But he didn't last long in the school. I don't know what happened, because he came, I remember, I don't know which grade I was, and the teacher just came and said, we are introducing a new teacher. And the moment he had to like bend down to pass, the door, he had to bend. And the moment students saw him, some started laughing, some were just shocked. They were like, he was extremely tall. But then he had a limp, one of his legs, so he used to walk like this. And his hand, one of his hands was like 2 of mine, Mr. Otieno. But he didn't stay long in the school. I don't know why. After a while, we didn't see him again. Then we had a Mr. Opondo. Mr. Opondo was he was the son of one of the school drivers, because the school had a van. There's a van that was gifted to the school from the administration police, because the government had bought all these the police, the GSU, the administration police. They'd been bought for these many cars that look alike, these Nissans. And there's a time when they came, they were all over the marching parade. They were just cars. It was like a manufacturing, like there were so many cars, and they were handed over to departments. And the school had requested the administration police to give us one of the vans. So the van was given. And now the driver of the van, I think, talked to the school, and his son had just finished university or something, or teaching training or something, and wanted an attachment. So Mr. Opondo was brought to our school. Mr. Opondo was young, but he was he just fit in that group of the disciplinarian, Mr. Njeru and Mr. Mwangi. He just seamlessly fit in there, I'm telling you. And then he used to teach us Kiswahili and English. Kiswahili and English, yeah. I was fine with the English, but the Kiswahili, whoa, the inchas, I'm telling you. And he was one of these teachers that he never forgets. He gives you an assignment. The next day, he does not forget like other teachers about assignments. And he wants to see them. Like, he open your assignments and he walks. Other teachers say, okay, have you done your assignments? Yes. Then they start asking questions, and you answer. With him, he goes desk to desk, checking whether you've done. I mean, sometimes with the Swahili, I used to, how you write the question and then you leave the space to be answered. You write a question, So he'd find that I've actually done the assignment, like I've written the assignment, but I haven't answered it. So he'd go through my books and he'd find like several, like I've answered like two out of 30 questions. And then I'd be told, Benson, stand over there. You're taken to the front. And I'd never been interested in Swahili, really, honestly, because after staying in Australia, some of my classmates started it from nursery level, Swahili, grade 1, grade 2, but in Australia there's no Swahili. So I wasn't taught Swahili in grade 1, I wasn't taught Swahili in grade 2, but I'm coming to grade 3 and I'm finding Swahili. They're like years ahead of me already, and I'm trying to like fit in and catch up. Oh, I really had a struggle with Swahili, but I was very good in other subjects. I was very good in science, I was good in English. Mathematics, I was average. Yeah, but I was never, I was always among the top in the class. The top 20, we were like, our school had a lot of, we had 2 streams, yeah? We had standard 3 South and standard 3 North. Standard 1 South, North, all the way to standard 8. So there were 2 classes. But I was in North and I was in South. I'm like I think maybe the only kid that was in had some stint in the north and some stint in the south. I'm telling you guys, I was a mischievous kid, but those stories I'll tell you later on. Some of these things. So I'm still telling you about the school. Yeah. So we had Mr. Opondo was very strict, and he stayed in one of the he stayed in Lenana Dome, the top floor, the teacher's room, because every floor has a teacher's room. Lenana has a teacher's room on the ground floor and the top floor. Kimathi, ground floor, top floor. But I think there was only one teacher, Mr. Pondo, in Upper Lenana, and there was also one teacher. It's been years, my people, I've forgotten their names. But there was also one teacher in Upper Kimathi. Yeah, I've forgotten. I shouldn't forget his name, because there's a time he almost killed me there. He was called, I've forgotten. There's a time when I had moved from Lenana, I was taken back to Kimathi because of something we did in Lenana. So I was in Kimathi, Upper Kimathi. I'm mixing up stories, guys. I'll get to what happened later in some of my other videos. But there's a time I was passing his door, and there are these naughty boys in class 8. So this guy used to like, this particular teacher, he used to like, after taking a shower, he used to put this very strong spray, cologne or aftershave, I don't know what it was. I'm telling you, he'd spray it in his room and you could smell it from the third cubicle. So those guys were sniffing, they're like, oh, that smells nice, he's got a new one, So I was passing, I was going to the shower. So they were smelling through the keyhole on his door. So when they left like this, I went to smell also. And the moment I went to smell, he opened the door and found me there. Now he thought I was peeping into his room. Oh my goodness. He just saw me, he didn't say anything. He closed the door, went back, and came out with the whip already. And I had already passed the door. I was going to the bathroom. I'm telling you, he just came out and started with me all the way to the bath. The guy, hey, I was caned. I was trying to say, no. I was just trying. What were you smelling? Why were you peeping? No, I wasn't. I was just smelling something. What were you smelling? I was caned. And now that's the problem with, boarding schools. You don't go back home, right? So even if you are to be abused by a teacher, even if you are to be beaten senseless, no one would know. I was caned, and I had all these whips on my back, and it was really terrible. When I went back, my class teacher noticed, what's wrong? I didn't say anything, but he really beat me up. That teacher, I'll never forget. I just forgotten his name. Yeah, but most of the teachers in Utawala were very, very strict. That school was military discipline, and that's like one of the things that I can't really forget. And it instilled a lot of discipline in the whole school. Like, you had to always think before you talk. Even the way it was like hard mentality. Like, the whole school, you just lived in fear. You couldn't talk out. You couldn't, like even just playing like the way kids play. From the classes, no running. If you're found running, you have to walk. Everywhere in the school, walk. You can't run. The only place maybe you can run is in the field. And even in the field, you can't really play, because if you get your clothes dirty, and then you come back to class and the teacher see like dust on your clothes, or I'm telling you, it was that school. There was a lot of discipline in that school, and that one I can never forget. But also, the good thing that I liked by that time, before they changed the rules, was that we were allowed to bring food. But they changed that rule later. But when we started boarding school, some guys used to come like with 2 boxes. One box is just your clothes and everything, and then the other box is biscuits and all that, sweets and all that thing, and sugar, things that are going to last you the whole term. So some of the rich kids, they had like 2 boxes, you know, and one for clothes and then another for just food, you know. And that went on for a while, but then later they changed it and no food was allowed. Totally nothing was allowed after an incident where I think a kid got food poisoning, you know, and they couldn't really tell whether it was the food from the schools, from the dining hall, or where this boy had eaten food and gotten food poisoning. And it was found out that he'd eaten something that had spoiled and it was in his box, and so the rules were changed. Just the same way, I remember in school we were allowed to have home clothes, right? We would only wear a school uniform during the class time, but then in the evenings, in weekends, we were allowed to have home clothes. But then that was also changed because, you know, kids, there were a lot of unclaimed clothes lying all about. Some of them were in the bathroom, you know, in the sinks, the washing sinks. They hadn't been touched for days, just soaking there, and, you know, and so they were like, no, we are only going to allow kids to have uniform, no more home clothes, you know. And it was really because we used to like it, you know, you're wearing your brand names, and those days, you know, people it was really nice. But then the rules changed and the grip, you know, the discipline became tighter in that school, you know. That school, the level of discipline, I don't think there's, because we used to even win awards everywhere we go, whether it's the music club, whether it's the scouts, whether it's the athletics club. Everywhere we used to go, we used to get this medal called the most disciplined school, you know. Even if we go somewhere and we are being provoked by, like, you know, kids are kids. There's another school over there, you know, we're in different groups. Maybe we've gone for the music festival or we've gone for sports, and they're taunting us, you know. We just sit there quiet. We won't say anything back, you know. And even the teachers in the other schools were like, your kids are very, very, very disciplined. They had no idea the type of whipping and panel beating we are being given to put us on the right path. That school was a very disciplined school. Kids were very disciplined. That one, I can tell you for a fact. I don't know how it is right now, but when I was in that school, it was a very disciplined school. So, that's the end of this video. I'm going to tell you about my friends and the people I met when I joined that school in my next video. All right. So guys, thank you for watching. If you're new, my name is Benson the Storyteller. These are my untold stories. Please subscribe, like, and comment on my videos. All right. If you're a regular viewer, thank you for watching and thank you for supporting me. I'll see you guys on my next video. Bye bye.